Okay, Nate, you just left us on the cliffhanger of the previous video. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. But you were talking about the phase after you presented the proposal that you call the negotiation tactic. And then you talked about specifically that a customer is talking to somebody about how to make a decision, essentially. So take it from there. How do you influence that buying decision?
Yeah, so I'm going to take it back to before you finish the proposal conversation. Back in the day, it would always been in person, but now post-COVID, sometimes those are now virtual, right? But we talk about getting a commitment objective from clients, and one of the commitment objectives that we would be wanting to get from a client at the end of this stage is like, okay, when are you going to be in the position to make a decision? When should I expect to hear back from you, right? So, because sometimes you'll hear, well, I've got to present it to a board, or if it's a nonprofit, or we have a committee that works on this. We have a committee meeting next Wednesday. Whatever we're gonna meet. So the important. Why is this important? It's very important for two reasons. Because it sets yourself up for the negotiation phase.
Absolutely.
Which is know when they're planning on making the decision. So let's say it's 2 weeks from today, and I'm just going to put because it's a very common time frame actually. But let's say it's 2 weeks from today. And why that's important is because one, your rep better not ask, hey, have you made a decision? Have you made a decision? I'm just following up, just checking in. You should not do any of that kind of BS, no value, harassing kind of activity between that meeting and the meeting and the time frame when the prospect said they're going to make a decision.
And the word that I've
That's
seen
step one.
on like online is the guy goes, "I'm just following up."
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that's it. Those are the
like,
words.
Do
right?
not. I'm just checking in. Just just following up. Like so and because the thing is, if someone does that, that demonstrates to me that their level of experience and maturity and professionalism as a salesperson, and B, that they didn't listen. They didn't listen to me when I told them that I don't have any information for you right now because I told you I'm not going to make that decision for 2 weeks. So so that's the first step is don't put yourself at a disadvantage by doing something stupid, by not asking the question and not listening and not and then interjecting when you're not adding any value whatsoever to the conversation. The second thing is that using that information is one of my first sales coaches that we hired taught me this lesson, and it's brilliant. Is he calls it, you got to have a follow-up toolkit. And what this is a lot of different pieces of information or assets or value-added items, and you can sometimes find them on the fly. You don't have to always have them in your kit, but you want to reverse engineer that from when they're making a decision to when you had that follow-up meeting, and you want to have strategically placed 2 or 3 or 4, depending on the duration of your time, follow-up communications. And I don't mean just like, hey, just following up, meaning like where you intentionally say, hey, we have an event coming up that talks about incident response plans. You had mentioned that was a big deal for you. I just thought I'd want to bring it up for you in case that's something of interest. You talked about you're really concerned about your team getting exposed to security awareness training and getting simulated phishing to kind of test and see how they're doing. Hey, here's a blog that we wrote about that. Or you said that strategic planning and getting budgeting information was a struggle for you. Hey, here's an article that we got published in a magazine, in an industry magazine that I thought you might be interested in. It's finding reasons to follow up and add value that's pertinent to some conversation you had throughout the sales process to demonstrate that you heard them. This is the experience they're going to get for working with you. And very often, and this is the weird psychological part of it, we are not a hardcore sales organization. Look, we either solve the problem that you're looking for and you want to work with us, or you don't. But what this does, and again, I don't know why this is what it is, but it's a psychological thing that I found true, is that if you just do just following up, just checking in, have you made a decision yet? If you do that kind of crap, and it's crap, that's what it is. It's just call it what it is. You're likely not going to get a response.
Yeah, you're burning the relationship.
But if and you're burning the relationship, you're wasting their time. But if you do one of these follow-up emails that says, that's value adding to them, it demonstrates that you heard them, you're bringing back things that you're trying to provide value to them, they are likely to respond with either, hey, thanks, I appreciate you sending that along, or, hey, you know what, thanks for sending this. I've been meaning to reach out to you because I have a question. Or you know what, we haven't made a decision yet. We're meeting at the end of this week, but thanks for sending this. Like, you're going to get information back because you didn't ask for it.
Yep.
It's that's the weird thing about it. Yeah. So you can tell this gets a little bit of a soapbox thing for
Nate
me.
on fire.
Because but this is so powerful, and so many salespeople do this really poorly. And just doing some of those basic things, not setting yourself up for doing something stupid, and providing value to them and demonstrating what it's going to be like working with you is the best tactic that you can get to get your prospect to enter the negotiation phase and set you up to close.
Awesome, Nate. Thank you. Brad, I think you had something you wanted to think about on this one.
Well, yeah, I got two thoughts. And one, Nate, we did a similar thing. We kind of rephrased it into like how, if you're going to go talk to a customer, if you can't answer the question how they're going to be better off or there's going to be a benefit for them after that conversation, and you showing your smiling face is not an acceptable answer. then you're not allowed to talk to them, right? Because to your point, you're wasting their time. Steve, you're talking about negotiating and kind of what do you do maybe if you're the leader or you're not the leader. We were so all in on the fact that we didn't want to be looked at as a commodity supplier, that we would, in almost every case, lead with, we want you to choose the company you want to work with, and then we will figure out the right solution and price that matches what you're looking for. But for us, what's important is we're a relationship company, and we want you to choose to have a relationship with us. And if you can psychologically get them to admit you're the company we want to work with, the rest is it is just a negotiation. Absolutely. Now it's not if, it's a just when and how much, right? So we would kind of psychologically, I don't want to say this because it was just true, but we would kind of psychologically box them in. Will you, and if the answer was we're going with somebody else, it gave us the opportunity to ask why. And you learn something, maybe we aren't as polished as we thought we were. Maybe somebody is doing something better than us. And it was a super useful kind of a gate for us to walk through on deal making.
That was Brad, yeah. But I don't think that's manipulative. Yeah, it was excellent. That's not manipulative, I don't think, because I think it's really about I do believe that you knew the kind of client or prospect that was a good fit for you, and it's the one that values that kind of relationship, right? Clients that don't value that, or they're then that's okay, right? We don't have to work with them. We're not a fit. That's fine. Right, exactly. And so I don't think that. But the other thing you said that was really, really important, and I think that it's a segue to not just being able to ask the question of why and getting a genuine answer. It's also, even in the negotiation phase, if you haven't earned the right to ask that question because you've done a good job of developing that rapport and developing credibility and having good communication, you're not. If you ask those questions either in the closing process or even after you lost, you're not going to get a real answer because they don't respect you enough to give you the right answer anyway. Or you might not get an answer at all, right? So I think you got to earn that right. And what you just talked about is that mentality, I do believe, and I agree with you, earns you the right to be able to even ask that question, so that because you've demonstrated that you genuinely want to hear what they have to say to potentially improve or do better next time.
Yeah, right. Yep, that's exactly it.
I love it. Nice work.